The Red-Headed League by Arthur Conan Doyle. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, 1892. One afternoon, Mr. Jabez Wilson came to Sherlock Holmes with a strange story. Wilson was a pawnbroker with a thick head of bright red hair. He explained that his young assistant, Vincent Spaulding, worked for only half wages, which seemed like a wonderful bargain. The only odd thing was that Spaulding loved photography and often disappeared into the cellar to develop his pictures. A few weeks earlier, Spaulding had shown his employer a newspaper advertisement. It announced an opening in the Red-Headed League, a society that paid good money to men with red hair. The job came from a fund left by a rich American, also red-headed, who wanted to help others like himself. Spaulding urged Wilson to apply, so Wilson went to the office. The room was crowded with red-headed men, but his hair was the brightest of all, and he won the position at once. The work was almost absurdly simple. Every day, from 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, he had to sit in the office and copy the Encyclopedia Britannica by hand. He was paid £4 a week, a fine wage, but he was forbidden to leave the office during those hours, or he would lose everything. For 8 weeks, Wilson copied page after page. Then, one morning, he arrived to find the door locked and a small card pinned to it. It read, "The Red-Headed League is dissolved." The office was empty, and no one knew where the men had gone. Confused and a little cheated, Wilson came to Holmes for answers. Holmes listened carefully, then laughed. He asked many questions about the assistant, Spaulding. Wilson described him as a small, quick man with a white splash of acid on his forehead and pierced ears. Holmes grew serious. He and Dr. Watson decided to visit the pawnshop themselves. When they arrived, Holmes knocked and asked the assistant for directions, just to see his face. Then, instead of leaving, Holmes walked around the corner to the street behind the shop. There stood a large city bank. Holmes tapped the pavement with his cane, listening to the sound. Now he understood everything. That night, Holmes brought Watson, a police inspector, and a bank director down into the bank's cellar, which held a great vault full of French gold. He warned them to cover their lantern and make no sound. "A daring crime may be attempted here tonight," he whispered, "and we must be ready for it." So they crouched in the cold darkness and waited. The silence stretched on, and not one of them dared to move. For a long time, nothing happened. Then a faint light appeared as a stone in the floor lifted. A hand reached up, and a man climbed out of the hole. The moment he was through, Holmes sprang forward and seized him. The thief was the assistant, in truth a famous and dangerous criminal named John Clay. His partner escaped up the tunnel, but the police were waiting and caught him too. Clay was led away, proud even in defeat. Holmes explained the whole scheme to Watson. The dull copying job, the brilliant red hair, the sudden closing of the league, all of it had been designed to empty the shop while the robbers dug. The smartest clue had been the worn knees of the assistant's trousers, marked by hours of crawling underground. "It saved me from a very dull life," Holmes said with a smile, "to solve such a curious little problem."